Hi, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to the Super G Sew Along. You should at this point have your size selected, your option selected, whether you're doing the side seam option or the no side seam option. You should have your pattern adjusted if you're going to need to adjust it for height or fit. And then you should have your fabric all cut out from yesterday. So what I'm going to go over today is the first thing I'm going to talk about is the construction of the side pocket for the version with the side pocket. If you're not doing the version with the side pocket, then you can just kind of skip over this portion of the video and skip straight to the main construction of the front and the back crotch seams. But first of all, I'm going to start with the construction of the side pocket. So go ahead and get out those side pocket pieces and I will walk you through how to do that. Okay, so to start out with the side pocket, you're going to want to grab the lower side pocket piece, place it right sides up, and then grab your upper side pocket piece and place that right sides up. And what you're going to do is take your upper side pocket piece, flip it so that it is right sides together with your lower side pocket piece, match up those edges at the top, and you're going to sew them or serge them together along this edge. So I'm going to go do that and I'll be right back. Just as a side note, there's a little notch that you can line up here. And just as a note, I am going to show you when I top stitch these. Top stitching is not required. It's not, it's just a decorative kind of thing, but I do like to do a reverse cover stitch. So I'll show you where I tend to do that. But right now I'm just going to serge across here and then come back and show you how I fold the pocket. Okay, so I've serged those pieces right sides together along that edge. And now what you're going to do is this kind of nifty folding. You're going to flip that down and then that point that you marked, either the notches or if you use like a piece of chalk to mark it, you're going to match those up at the top. So I've got my fold here and then I'm matching it with those notches where it's supposed to match at the top. And then if you turn it over on the inside, that serge seam is going to be right there. So that's how you do the pocket. Now, at this point, you do not have to top stitch across this piece. You wouldn't want to top stitch across both layers anyway. If you want to add a line of top stitching just for, as a decorative feature, you can. Something to keep in mind, because these are a tight fit, if you top stitch across this little folded part, and you don't use a stretch stitch or you don't loosen the tension a little bit in your cover stitch machine, you can end up with this pocket kind of feeling tight across the opening. So I'm actually not going to top stitch mine right there, but you could. Now you're going to be sewing these together next with the front and the back pieces. So you may want to baste these edges together just to keep all of those layers together as you get ready to sew them on. So I like to also, sometimes I'll just use clips or pins to do that. But if you're newer to sewing or you just don't want to worry about those layers slipping around, then I would go ahead and baste them together. Okay, now that you have the sides of that pocket piece either pinned or basted together, you're going to get out your back leg piece and you're going to flip them so that they're right sides together and match the pocket up with the length of the back leg piece. So you'll notice at the top there's a little bit of the corner of the pocket that's going to kind of extend beyond the back leg piece. That's because when you sew it right at the seam line, it's going to hit exactly. Keep in mind the seam is 3/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to clip this all the way down. You should not need to stretch the pocket piece to fit it all. It should fit exactly on your back leg piece without any stretching. So got that clipped all the way down. Now I'm just going to go ahead and serge that on, and then I will come back and show you what that looks like. Now after you serge it on, you're also, if you are going to add any decorative top stitching, I would do that along the leg at that point. Okay, so now I've serged them right sides together and folded them back out so you can see the pockets over here. The pants back is over here. This is the point at which I'm going to go and I'm going to do a reverse cover stitch down the side of the leg. You can see if I turn them wrong sides up. Now here's the wrong side of the pocket. Here's the wrong side of the pants. So this is where I'm going to go and do that reverse cover stitch, and I'll go over to my cover stitch machine and I'll show you how I like to do that. Again, this is not a necessary detail. It doesn't provide any real function. It just looks good. So, and also if you have a sewing machine, sometimes sewing machines have kind of like a faux cover stitch that looks really fun. So you can experiment with some different options there as well. Okay, so now I'm over here at my cover stitch machine. And I do something called chaining. I start off on a scrap piece of fabric that I've folded over, and I always sew a test stitch to make sure that it looks the way I want to. But I'm gonna sew right up to the edge of this fabric, and then I'm just going to stick wrong sides up my Super G leg with the sides down, and I'm gonna start at the bottom because I want to sew, I want my faux cover stitching, or my cover stitching, to be end up more on the back side of the leg rather than directly on the pocket. So I'm going to put my presser foot down. I'm using a Baby Lock cover stitch machine. This thing is awesome, does really well. I've got all my tensions pretty much set to 4, 3.5 to 4, and I'm just using Maxi Lock in the looper, or in all of the threads. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew right up to that edge. And then pressing my seam allowance to the left toward that back leg, I am going to start sewing. This enables me to get right, chaining like that enables me to get right to the bottom of the fabric, so that don't have a part that isn't sewn. And then sometimes I hand crank the last few. When I get to the end, and I am using all 3 needles here, I use this little screwdriver. I sweep the threads toward the front, cut, and then pull my fabric out through the back. And that actually ties off the stitches. So you can see, if you look, kind of hard with this navy fabric, but I have my line of cover stitching all the way down that side pocket. I just clip off that piece where I chained on, and now I'm ready to move on to the next step. So I'm going to continue to let you know where I stop and do my reverse cover stitching or my top stitching detail, but I'm not going to show it over and over because I don't want these videos to be too long for you. So now we're ready to move on to the next step of our construction. Okay, so you're going to, if you're doing the side seam version for both legs, you're going to want to repeat that process for the second leg. If you are doing one leg of each, you're going to follow along with me, and I will talk about the no side seam version last. So keep on trucking along with me if you are doing the version with the side pockets or with one side pocket and one no side seam. So the next thing you're going to do if you're doing one of those options is to grab your front pieces. This is the piece with the what looks like a really short crotch curve. It'll work out, I promise. But what you're going to want to do is grab those and place them right sides together. Now I am sewing one of each leg, so mine's going to look maybe a tiny bit different, but basically I've got those right sides together here. Just give them a little clip. It's a really short seam, so it's not even totally necessary to clip it. But you're gonna serge that or sew that together at 3/8 of an inch. And then I also will go back and top stitch that seam as well, because I just like the look of it. So again, that's another area that you could top stitch if you want to, but it's not required. So I'm gonna go back and sew and top stitch that, and then I'll come back and show you the next step. Okay, so I've got my crotch seam sewn and top stitched. This is the right side of my fabric. Now we're going to sew the side seams together. So I have my one giant leg right here that's my no side seam version on one side. But if you're using this side seams on both sides, this is just going to be a narrower strip here. So I am going to take my pocket piece that I had sewn onto the back, and I am going to put it right sides together with one of those front pieces and line up that other edge of the pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and clip that all the way down. Here, and again, we're not stretching anything. These pieces should be lining up just right. Okay, so now I've got my side pocket piece that's already attached to my back, right sides together with my front piece, and I'm going to sew those down the length, right sides together. And then again, this is a place where I'm going to go back and top stitch, and you can follow along with that and do that as well if you want to. Okay, so now you should have a big giant piece that if you're doing the side seams on both sides, it'll look like this on both ends. It'll have the back crotch unsewn. It's very important that you leave this unsewn. The front crotch sewn together, and then you'll have the other side. Now I'm doing the other side with no pocket, so I have a side with no pocket here, but if you were doing the pocket, you would have repeated those steps of sewing the pocket together with the front and the back on this side, and it would look the same over here. So now we're ready to attach the gusset, and we're gonna go ahead and do that tomorrow, but you are 3/4 of the way through these leggings. You can see how quickly even the side pocket version comes together. Here's my pocket right here. So this is really exciting. So I will see you back here tomorrow for sewing in our gusset. Good job. Make sure that you post your progress and any questions you might have in the comments so that I can help you out.